Welcome to Ace My Exams Learning. Let us get started with today's learning.
Read the extract below and answer the questions that follow. All religions have a set of beliefs about the nature of humanity, the world, the divine, creation, and other parts of our lives. Such broad beliefs are referred to as religious teachings. Religious teachings can be in the form of written or oral texts. Question. Name and explain the hermeneutical principles. Hermeneutics is the study and practice of interpreting sacred texts. In religious studies, hermeneutical principles provide structured methods for understanding the deeper and accurate meaning of scriptures. Since sacred texts are often ancient and written in symbolic or poetic language, interpretation requires a careful and consistent approach. Below are the key hermeneutical principles that guide the interpretation of religious writings. 1. Grammar and historical context. Sacred texts should be understood based on the time and circumstances in which they were written. This means looking at the history, culture, language, and political situations of that period. Many religious writings reflect the daily life, beliefs, and values of ancient communities, and the way they used words can be very different from how we use them today. For example, if a text talks about an eye for an eye, we need to understand that it was written in a time when justice systems were very strict. It doesn't mean we should do the same today. Understanding the grammar and the historical background helps us avoid modern misinterpretations and uncover what the original message really meant. 2. Clearest meaning. When reading a sacred text, always start with the most obvious and straightforward meaning. The meaning that is clearest to the reader should be considered first, especially when the text is written in plain and direct language. This principle reminds us not to overcomplicate things. If the message makes sense as it is, then that's likely what it means. Only look for hidden, symbolic, or deeper meanings if the words are unclear, poetic, or written in a style that suggests symbolism. For example, if a text says, "Do not steal," it clearly means stealing is wrong. There's no need to look for a deeper message in such a direct instruction. 3. Plan, purpose and context. When reading sacred texts, it's important to remember that every part is connected to a bigger whole. Each sentence or verse is part of a larger message, so we should not try to interpret one line on its own. We must look at the entire book or chapter to understand the true meaning. We also need to think about how the text is written. Is it poetry, a law, a story, or a prophecy? Different styles use language differently. For example, poetry may be symbolic, while laws are more direct. If we read about a war in a sacred text, we shouldn't think the text supports violence without first understanding the full chapter. It might be part of a bigger lesson about justice, consequences, or peace. Always read a passage in its full context, considering the type of writing and the purpose of the whole document. This helps us understand the message clearly and correctly. 4. Meaning of words. Words do not always keep the same meaning over time. A word that was used in an ancient sacred text might mean something very different today. That's why it is important to understand what the word meant when the text was first written. If we use today's meaning, we might misunderstand the message of the scripture. This mistake is called anachronism, when we apply modern meanings to ancient words. To interpret texts correctly, we must look at the original meaning in its time and context. For example, the word fear in old religious texts often meant deep respect or awe, not being afraid. So, when a text says, "Fear God," it is really saying respect God deeply, not be scared of God. Therefore, knowing the original meaning of words helps us read sacred texts more accurately and respectfully. 5. Figurative language. Sacred texts often use figurative language, such as metaphors, similes, symbols, and parables, to express deep spiritual truths, and help readers understand complex or unseen ideas in a more relatable way. This must be identified as such, so that it is not interpreted literally. Recognizing this is crucial, as taking such language literally can lead to serious misinterpretation. For example, when a sacred text says, "God is my rock," it doesn't mean that God is a physical rock. It means that God is strong, dependable, and a source of protection. Similarly, phrases like God's hand usually refer to divine power or action, not a literal body part. To understand figurative expressions correctly, we must use other hermeneutical principles, such as grammar, historical context, word meaning, and overall message of the text. This helps us discover what the symbol or image is truly trying to teach. 6. Other sacred texts. When a passage in a sacred text is difficult to understand, we can use other parts of the same religion's writings to help explain its meaning. This is because there is consistency between the teachings of the religion and its sacred texts. The texts within a religion usually share a set of teachings and values, hence one text can clarify or expand on another. This helps keep interpretations true to the core beliefs of the religion. For example, if a verse in the Bible talks about forgiveness, we can better understand it by looking at related stories, like the parable of the prodigal son, which shows forgiveness in action. Using different parts of the same religious texts together gives a fuller and clearer understanding.
To access more learning and exam preparation materials, go to www.acemyexams.coza. This link is also in the video description below. Thank you for watching this video. Remember to subscribe and be the first to know when we upload new videos.